Okay, so first, thanks for joining us, Katrina. Much
Pleasure.
appreciated.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, not at all. Before we talk about your Instagram page, which is Stories Best Shared, which is essentially portraits of people on their doorsteps with a story of them during lockdown. I thought it might be good if you could give us a brief kind of background of your history and how you became a portrait photographer.
Yeah, so I've basically been working as a portrait photographer for the past 14 years, really since I had kids. And prior to that, I was working in advertising, not so much on the creative side. I was an account director. So, the thankless, unrelenting task of organising the campaigns for the clients, dealing with the creatives, but very much working with communications and visual images. So when I stopped and went on my first maternity leave, I wanted to do something more creative and something that I thought would fit around the kids. I naively thought I would be sitting there rocking the baby while tapping away at my laptop, and discovered that the reality that everyone realizes now that they're working from home with small children, it's very hard. But I did do that. So I have, over the years, built that up, my portrait photography business. And that is working really well now. Well, it was until about 7 weeks ago. So that is predominantly what I do, is family portraits, business portraits. That's how I make my living. So the current situation is quite different.
Right. So well, tell us why you started the Stories Best Shared account. What was the impetus?
Well, so actually, Stories Best Shared I had set up about a year ago because I had already started moving towards a slightly more editorial side. So I have my portraits, which is very much for the clients, whether they're a family or a business, I'm creating the portraits that they want. And then along the way, I was discovering, especially with perhaps more business portraits, where someone would invite me into their home or into their place of work, find out pretty interesting stories. And I thought, oh, that sort of attracted me more towards editorial style of photography. So Stories Best Shared started a while ago, but it only really took off at the beginning of the lockdown, when it was very sudden, wasn't it, for everyone, even though we could see this pandemic coming, to be told suddenly, you can't work anymore, you can't do what you normally do. And for me, I go out with my camera and I go into people's homes. So to suddenly be told that was a very strange feeling. And at the same time, I saw the local community galvanizing and pulling together and creating WhatsApp groups to help the vulnerable. And I didn't do it out of any kind of great noble sense of sort of helping everyone. It was just, I signed up for, helping elderly people in the street who couldn't get out. But I really was very curious. And I was curious to know how my neighbours next door were doing. And I was curious to know how friends in the street were doing. So the more I spoke to them on WhatsApp, the more I thought, God, behind every door is a fascinating story, whether it's just somebody saying, oh, I'm really struggling with homeschool, or whether it's somebody saying, my business has come crashing down and I don't know how I'm going to pay the rent. I just thought that everyone had a great story to tell. So that is how it started, really.
So, and I mean, what's your, how do you approach people? Is it people and they say, oh, Katrina's doing this series, can you tell us about the process?
So it started just on the street, and I thought, wouldn't that be a nice idea in this time? We didn't know how long it would be in the weeks, to record everyone on the street and take a photo of them on their doorstep and just tell their story. And I automatically thought of social media. So I thought, we can share it as we go and the stories will unravel as we go, reveal themselves. So I started with friends and neighbours, and then they would recommend a neighbour further down the road, and then they would recommend someone out of the street. And first I hesitated, and then it was suddenly very apparent that lots of people were interested in telling their story. So it has really all been word of mouth. And by word of mouth, I also mean Facebook. So lots of people have contacted me through Facebook and Instagram, and either asked to get involved and share their story, or interested in having their photos taken.
And how does it actually work then? Like, what's the kind of setup? Are you knocking, running back, asking them to pose, or is it like how?
So the setup would be, so if you emailed me today and said, oh, I'd like to tell my story, or I'd like a photograph, I'd go, great, James, I've got your WhatsApp. I would send you a questionnaire, and it's just a series of questions that kind of provoke a conversation. So you might send me very kind of one-word answers back, very straight answers. I then go, that sounds good. I know a little bit about you, so that when I turn up, then we fix a time. It might be tomorrow, it might be in a week's time, but we fix a time. I turn up. I really took it very seriously. Well, obviously, as we all do with the social distancing, and I would call when I arrived. So I'd cycle there, fit it in on my daily bike ride, cycle to someone's house, call them from outside. So no doorbell ringing or knocking even. And I just stand at least 2 meters away, if not more, at the end of the path and take the photos, and really just sort of 5 or 10 minutes, a bit of a chat, and then off I'd go. And then we would carry on maybe a little bit more of a chat for the interview on WhatsApp. And that was it. So quite simple, really.
And do you think it's something you might try and turn into into a book or something like that?
Yeah, I'd really love to. I think I've been surprised at how interesting the stories are. I mean, I'm pleased with the photographs, but I don't think the photographs on their own would stand up. I think it's the fact that each photograph comes with its own unique story. So I would love to put it together and get it published in a book.
I mean, I think it's something, it's important. It's something that I've been talking about with my wife and child, that kind of remembering to document the time, because I'm notorious for not having a great memory as it is. So I'm like trying to find any way possible to kind of remember the time, because I know when we're kind of 20 years past this event, if my daughter asks me like, oh, what was it like? I'm probably gonna say, yeah, we were probably in the house for a couple of weeks, because it's the sort of thing that will get less. Yeah. It gets rose tinted, right? So you end up shortening the time. Oh, it wasn't so bad, but I kind of want to make sure I actually have it documented, so my memories don't get rose tinted, so I can say, look, this is how it was, and also to show some of the real like camaraderie that has come from like the coronavirus. And I think it's important to tell those stories as you're doing, and have it documented.
Yeah, that's what I think is really interesting, when different people think, oh, are the stories sounding the same? Because they'll say, lots of people will repeat similar emotions or similar stories. But I think the little details are quite interesting. As you say, when someone says, what was it really like? To have it written down, something about the supermarket experience, or something about, one that I think I'm going to post tomorrow is a postman. And at first, when I sent the questionnaire, they come back to me, and they often come back with the story about home life, because it is all about staying at home. And maybe my questions are directed a bit like that. But then I said, well, just tell us what it's like being a postman. So he's put in the detail of what he does in his van. And that's just quite interesting, because we don't know all these different details of how people operate. So
are there any stories so far that you've captured that kind of stand out to you? Obviously they all do in their own rights, but is there anything kind of extraordinary that you could share with the people listening to this? So I think the most amazing one, and the one that I was the least prepared for, was we went to a care home locally. When I say me, my son came with me. He's because
not only have I got to do my daily exercise, but I've got to exercise the kids too. So he sometimes comes on the bike ride with me. And we were at the care home, and I just asked whether any of the staff, because obviously the residents are not permitted to be photographed, but I asked if any of the care workers would like to have their photo taken in the doorway. And 2 agreed. So it was the deputy care manager, she's an older woman called Patricia. I think she's in her 60s. She came out and she was so full of energy and enthusiasm, lovely Irish accent and sparkly eyes. And she really talked a lot about her experience, which was a very dire experience of suddenly dealing with so many people at the end of their life. Whereas she may well have dealt with 1 or 2 cases, or very occasionally through her time. So I was slightly unprepared for it. So it was quite amazing how she talked about it, and with such positivity. So yes, that one really stood out.
Do you have to be fairly selective of people that you choose? Are there ever times where you just have to kind of swerve them if they tell you, I don't know, awkward stories or something?
Not yet. No, not yet. I mean, if anything, I haven't turned anyone down yet. If anyone's interested, I'll photograph them. I mean, I've got a list of people, and maybe some people move up the priority list if I think, oh, that is a particularly interesting story, and I don't want, at the moment I'm revealing them daily on Instagram, so I don't want to just, run with a sequence of similar people. So if suddenly I get an older person, I'll think, oh, great, that's it. I need more older people to photograph, because it tends to be I get approached by lots of people in their 40s with small kids, and that's great, but I don't want the whole story to look like that's everyone who I was interviewing. That said, no, I haven't turned anyone away, and it's surprising where the interesting stories are.
With the documenting of these stories, like as Jade was saying, there's something about documenting an event that kind of removes you as the person doing the documenting. I don't know. For example, a few years ago, we took a flight back from LA, and it was incredibly turbulent. And on the landing, the plane touched down and then immediately took off again. Yeah. And everyone in the plane was like really frightened by this. The cabin crew were all like, they looked a nervous wreck. And at the time, it was awful for me as well, a horrible experience. And I didn't want to get on a plane for a long time after that. But obviously I did. And I like to film my family's holidays. Anytime we go somewhere, I'll make a little film about it. And I found that filming the landing of any flight I took, if it was the reaction of my kids or a time lapse of the outside, I kind of removed myself from it, so I didn't feel any kind of nerves or anxiety about it. I don't always film it, because once you've filmed a landing 2 or 3 times, it gets a bit boring. But is there an element of that with you and doing these stories? Does it kind of take you out of not take you out of the pandemic, but does it kind of make you feel like, okay, I've got work to do now, I'm going to do this?
Definitely. It's definitely keeping me incredibly busy. I've always got a little portrait shoot to edit or a story to edit, and yes, I'm documenting other people's experiences, so I'm not dwelling on my own worries or my own family's worries. There is that as well, because we're all affected, but I've not really thought about it like that before. But I suppose I am, escaping into work, even if it's unpaid work at the moment, but it's still work that I can keep myself busy with. Yes.
And I guess also the other side of that is if you're having you're having these conversations about other people's stories, it probably puts some of your your kind of home life and your predicament and how your family are in this situation. It probably puts it into light, kind of see whether you're not necessarily overreacting, but you see maybe someone else's situation is worse.
Absolutely. Sharing stories and sharing experiences and going out there and finding that other people are having the same issues or slightly different experiences of the same situation. I think that actually, I jotted something down in my notebook the other day because I noticed like overwhelmingly people, and it might have been that the people I'm approaching are feeling quite positive because they want to be photographed. You have to be in a fairly positive state of mind to want to tell your story. But overwhelmingly, they were saying, we feel very lucky. We feel very lucky. There are people much less fortunate than us, much less suffering. But then I would ask a few more questions. So I'd think, oh, well, maybe this household is badly affected. You would probe a little bit and discover that they had maybe, if not lost someone very close to them, they knew of someone who died, or they were suffering financially. But it's just a sort of quite amazing, the empathy that people have for others. And I don't think there's a single person who hasn't said they feel lucky. At some stage they've said, oh, we feel really lucky for X reason.
And so, I mean, more broadly now, have you got any kind of tips or advice for people? I mean, last week we had a conversation and Jade was just saying that his thing is to not look too far into the future, just take each day as it comes. Obviously you speak to a lot of people. Have you got any advice? I mean, as a creative or as a mother?
Yeah, I mean, well, I would definitely agree with that. The taking each day as it comes and not looking too far into the future is something I've been living by right from the start, because we don't know how it's going to pan out. So that is really good advice. And also not to be too absorbed into watching the news and listening to the news. So I do have a top tip, which isn't the same one that you talked about last week. And it's taken from, not from how I'm living my life, but from how overwhelmingly the stories tend to be positive. People looking for silver linings and finding the joy in being at home or taking a break from their work or having to do things differently for financial reasons, or having to spend more time with loved ones or talk to loved ones more on the phone. And that is to try and seek out the positives in any situation. And I was listening to George the Poet on Radio 4 the other day, and so to pinch a quote from him, it was that his approach was to try to extract the joy from any given situation, however cruel. And it does seem that there are plenty of things to get out of this, nature returning to our lives for a start.
Yeah, absolutely. So and you're go on, Jade.
No, I was going to say I've enjoyed seeing the number of people running and people cycling and getting out and exercising. That's been excellent. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there who have never run a day in their life, but because it was an opportunity to get outside, they're like, I'm going to start running. So I love that. I think it's excellent, and I hope that's something that continues for everyone, because all the benefits of exercising are well documented. But I think it's good for mental health, right? And especially in a situation like this, whilst we're in it, it's great for mental health. But if you kind of continue on and use that as the positive thing that came out of this, I think it's going to be amazing for a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely.
Go on,
with the lockdown measures being eased, are you going to change your this format? Is it always going to be on Doorsteps, or will you start to mix it up with?
I think I will stick with Doorsteps for now. Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's quite ready you know, a little bit like the lockdown is really only easing, isn't it? It's not, we haven't really been released. Everyone's still at home. So I feel I'll carry on doing the doorsteps. I can imagine as the lockdown measures are eased, maybe in the next wave, that I might be able to branch out and do it something. And it might be even people, you know, perhaps I could do people returning to work. But again, it would be maybe something, I don't know, mode of transport and a series of, or even doorsteps at their place of work. I don't know. I'd have to find something else that would be a new format rather than just going out into the open.
Yeah, and I think if you were going to do, you know, people returning to work, it'd be nice to like revisit the people that you'd already done in their home to show the, you know, to show that mirror image.
Yeah, definitely.
I bet you've noticed that people's front gardens look immaculate recently, like since the lockdown started. So you get to know a little bit more of the house in the picture.
Yeah, well, it is. So the first people that I photographed, I was very, you know, they would ask me what they should do, and I would say, don't do anything, just come as you are. You know, if you're still in your pajamas, all the better, because then it's a more authentic photograph. And, you know, only one friend came out in her pajamas, but everyone else, they would turn up in their slippers and mismatched socks, and I quite like that, because normally when you're doing a portrait, you know, not only are they taking great care, but I take care and say, oh, maybe you want to put your shoes on or change your shoes. So it's really refreshing to be thinking the opposite. And I quite like it when people haven't particularly tidied up either. Although recently I've been getting more calls asking for portraits, doorstep portraits. And then when I agree to it, they say, oh, give us another week. We just need to paint the front door. So they're obviously, you know, sprucing up for it.
Have you done your own story on your page?
Well, not yet, but I do think I should.
Yeah. Are you documenting at all? Like, I don't know, a diary or like for yourself?
I'm not, but I should. This is a good reminder. I definitely should. I mean, in my notepad, I jot notes down as I go of the whole situation. So probably in there I can glean a few things, but I think that's a great reminder to keep a diary, because how you feel does change week by week. Yeah,
absolutely. Before we wrap this up, because we are limited to half an hour, I think, or just over that. So at our coffee shop, which is closed at the moment, we are doing a coffee bean delivery service. And each week, because of our friend Jade, we're now doing a giveaway. So people are donating coffee and we're giving away a bag as well as the people donating. And we're asking people to nominate people to give the coffee to. You are probably the perfect person to ask for a nomination. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be right away now, but
okay,
if you could let us know.
I will nominate someone. I can think of someone. Sorry?
Yeah, a person or a family in Enfield who could do with some coffee. Let us know.
I have someone up my sleeve. I'm going to double check that they drink coffee.
Of course they do.
Not, I can think, yeah, well, they need to. Yeah, that's a great idea. And also, you guys, are you interested in a doorstep photo? Can I cycle past your houses?
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, so I'll tell you what I'm jealous of. Colin has fantastic wisteria in front of his house, so his picture will probably be the most beautiful of all of ours. Really, it is. It's really nicely framed. So I think you're going to a winner there. Yeah, we might. Yeah, but I'm sure. Yeah, we'd be up for it as well. Part of the family. Yeah.
Yeah. Likewise. Just let me know when you want to do it.
Yeah. Cool. Do you all live near each other, or?
Yeah, pretty much, really. I think, well, Colin and I live very close together. And then James, you live, is it near Cockfosters you live?
Right? I'm in Oakwood. So Oakwood, yeah. So not very far. Whereabouts are you, Katrina?
That's fine. I'm in Grange Park, so.
Oh, okay. We're super close then.
Where are you? Enfield.
Oakwood. You know.
Oakwood. Yes.
Near Merry Hills.
Oh yes. Oh, we are super close. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming on and talking to us. Yeah, we'll put all the details of where people can find you, and obviously the new Instagram page you've started, in the show notes.
Okay.
And yeah, do let us know about the coffee drop as well.
The giveaway, definitely. I'm going to find out now, so I'll message you guys back.
Perfect.
It's somebody that I'm photographing on Friday.
Excellent.
Okay.
All right. Well, take care, and hopefully, I mean, we usually do this podcast in the coffee house on Sundays. So maybe when this is all over, we can do another kind of recap, catch up podcast.
So obviously your coffee shop is not open, but you're doing deliveries. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, only coffee beans and ground coffee.
Yeah.
For now.
But keeping it going.
Yeah, we're managing.
Okay, good. All right. Great to meet you.
And
Take
you.
care.
All right. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
That was episode 2 of the Pop-In Sessions. Thanks for listening. You can follow us on Instagram at Pore Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at James Stanton Did It. Colin is on Instagram at Colin_Stanton82. And Jade is at Black J Films on Instagram and Twitter. See you on the next one.